Hey everyone, welcome back to another video from the channel. And before I start this video, I want to talk. We are currently at 495 subscribers. Um, let's get to 500 by the end of today. I'm gonna release this. I'm filming this on the same day that I'm gonna release it, so I think we can do it. Let's If watching this video, please do subscribe. In fact, in my last presidential election prediction video, we had 11,000 over 11,000 views, and but only around 80 people subscribed, and that's a lot, so I do thank you. But if all of you watching this subscribed, that would help me out a tremendous amount. So without further ado, I'm going to get into this now, and we're going to start by filling out our safe states. All right, so Washington, I believe, will be safe for Joe Biden. Oregon, it could be likely based on the margins. I believe safe margins are upwards of 12% victory for for each respective candidate. In this case, Joe Biden is going to win Oregon, that's for sure. He could win it by under 12, but I think he'll win it by 13, 14. California is obviously going to be safe. I'm big on characterizing Colorado as safe. I do think it was actually very close in 2016, but we have to remember that Gary Johnson actually did take away some votes from Donald Trump here, whereas Jill Stein, she actually took away 33,000 votes from Hillary Clinton. First, Howie Hawkins is 100% going to outperform Jill Stein all across the country. And second, Colorado is turning to the left. In fact, the Democrats won the governor's race there in 2018 by a safe margin. I need to find. Oh yeah, Colorado. They won there by a little less than a safe margin. So I guess I could see it being likely, but I do think Democrats are projected to get at least 55% of the vote. That bodes well for them, and I think that they will get this by a safe margin. It could be likely, but I'm going to put it as safe. I'm not going to touch New Mexico. Hawaii will obviously be safe. Illinois, I do think that Joe Biden will actually outperform Dick Durbin here. Maryland, Delaware. Delaware, a lot of people are saying that it could be likely. I don't think it will, especially Joe Biden, popular senator from Delaware. He won all three counties when he ran. Connecticut's not going to be a likely, nor is Rhode Island. I'm actually not going to talk about Maine at large, but I'm going to talk about Maine's first district. I'm actually not going to talk about it, whatever. I was contradicting myself, but I'm not going to touch Maine at large just yet, but I am going to touch Maine's first district and give it to the Democrats. So that's 192 safe electoral votes for them. Am I seeing anything? Nope, I'm not. So people say that I'm a little generous with my safe characterizations for the Republican Party. I actually stand by these characterizations, generally speaking. So these are my safe states. I feel like I'm missing something. Utah, that's what I was missing. So, I characterized Utah and Montana and Kansas all as safe for the Republican Party. There were some polls that came out of there, if you want to talk about the polling, from, for example, Utah, there was a poll that came out that only had Trump ahead by, it was a weird poll that only had Trump ahead by Trump ahead by 3 on May 26th. I really don't think it'll be competitive, and it was a big sample size, but not a great poll. The best polls that are sampling this, they're only doing House polls, which is interesting, but they're putting Trump ahead by 19, so I really don't think that Utah will be competitive, to be honest with you. Maybe it's likely in a best-case scenario for Joe Biden. I don't think it is, though. Or I don't think that in this scenario, this is my actual prediction, so yeah. Montana, having Steve Bullock and Mike Cooney on the ballot will propel Democrats. They'll kind of run up the score. But we're talking about polls that are pretty good polls, but not sampling a ton of people, putting Trump ahead by 9. I think it could very well be likely, and I would not be surprised. I'm just going to put it as safe. Remember, Gary Johnson did take away a lot of votes, especially in these regions, from Donald Trump. He got 5.6% of the vote, and Trump still won it by a safe margin. So I do think that he'll win it again. Any other controversial calls? Yeah, I don't characterize Kansas as safe. I just don't see the evidence for that. Like, it's kind of a thing that people do characterize it as likely, but Trump absolutely destroyed Hillary Clinton here, and I think Joe Biden will do a little bit better than her. But again, this is a very red state, and maybe it could have been likely if Chris Kobach was on the ballot, taking away votes from Donald Trump, in terms of the down ballot effect, but they're running Roger Marshall instead. So I really don't expect Kansas to be that competitive. Alaska, I just think, it's a weird state to analyze. It could be safe, could even be lean. I think that Al Gross is a strong candidate in the Senate. That'll help the Democrats. Plus, we're going to see a lot of third-party voting here, as usual, which does, in a place like Alaska, generally hurt the Republican Party. All right, so now we're going to talk about our likely states. These are a bit more interesting. New Mexico. I'm going to say that New Mexico is likely. Now, it actually was likely in 2016. Hillary Clinton won by 8.3%, but we had nearly 10% of the vote going to Gary Johnson. That's going to definitely be cut in half, and I'm being generous. So I think that, to be completely honest, I think that Joe Jorgensen is going to be lucky to get 4% of the vote here. I think she'll get something like 2.5%, maybe something like that. But again, this is a state that there is a large libertarian presence. Gary Johnson was the governor of New Mexico, so there's always that to consider. And he did run, so yeah. Now let's go. Let's talk about Minnesota. But bottom line is New Mexico. There's all the third party voting. I think Joe Biden will get over 50% of the vote this time, but Donald Trump will also improve on his margins. So yeah. That being said, it was likely in 2016. It'll be likely again. Oh my gosh, my bad. Minnesota, I do think that this state is actually going to vote to the right of Michigan, which is a weird thing to say because it actually voted to the left of Michigan. And I want to look at this trend historically. Now, Minnesota went to Hillary Clinton. This was the only Rust Belt state that she won because she had no appeal to these voters. Blah, blah, blah. She won by 1.4%. And then she actually lost Michigan. It was a very surprising outcome in the state, probably the second most surprising behind Wisconsin. But Hillary Clinton, so she lost by, a little less than 0.3%, which in this case was 11,000 votes. And if you remember, interesting stat from Michelle Obama's Democratic National Convention speech, Hillary Clinton lost by an average of 2 votes per precinct. 2 votes. That is absolutely insane of how close Michigan was, but people are kind of saying, "Oh, Michigan's going to vote to the right of Minnesota." I actually don't think so. I think that Michigan will vote to the left of Minnesota, and if we look at these trends, if we look at the election results, here, Barack Obama, he won Michigan by a little less than 10. He won Minnesota by just nearly 8. So in 2012, Michigan did vote to the left of Minnesota. So if I'm putting Minnesota as likely, then what do you know? I also am putting Michigan as likely. And I think Michigan is getting kind of an undeserved rep of being a competitive state, when really this state was kind of like the Indiana of 2016, because, Barack Obama, he won Indiana very, very narrowly in 2008, but he ended up losing it by a pretty good amount in 2012. Now, if we pull up this tab, Indiana, he ended up losing it by 10, 11 points, and then he barely won it. He won it by basically the same margin that Donald Trump won Michigan by. Michigan has been a historically blue state. The last time it went red was other than 2016, 1988. So, and they were running Michael Dukakis. Now, Joe Biden, he did very well in the primaries. Hillary Clinton did horribly in the primaries in Michigan, by the way. And, we're seeing higher turnout. Democrats did very well here in the midterm elections. If you want to talk about the governor's race there, Michigan. It was a flip. Gretchen Whitmer beat Bill Schwett. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but she won by nearly 10 points, and that was a flip. So, I'm 100% not going to, assume that I'm not going to assume that it's going to be competitive just because of one election, because that would be ignorant of me. And when we look at every single piece of data, Michigan, Donald Trump, negative 14% net approval. Every poll that you look at in Michigan, very good polls, mind you, because people are polling Michigan, they're putting Biden ahead and Gary Peters ahead. A+ graded poll. Registered voters, 610, puts Biden ahead by 11. And I think that's a pretty realistic margin, being honest. I don't think he'll win by 11. I think he'll win by something like 8, maybe 9. But again, this is a state that has been a historically blue state for a while, and I do expect Michigan to stay with, or not stay because that's incorrect, but to come back to the Democrats because, this is a very blue state. Now, Pennsylvania, I want to characterize it as likely. I'm not going to just yet, because Joe Biden being from here, he makes a very good case. Plus, the recent polling has actually been very good for the Democratic Party generally here. Um, Biden had by four. Anthony DePasquale in the House by two. So if we average this out, it adds up to like a 5-point win. But I'm not going to touch Pennsylvania just yet. But I am going to talk about Virginia first. Now, Virginia is a very interesting state in that people tend to underestimate the margins. People forget how close it was in 2016. Hillary Clinton, she only won here by a little less than 5, basically 5%. Even though her running mate Tim Kaine was from Virginia. Now, that being said, Virginia is trending to the left, and Northern Virginia is growing incredibly fast. And speaking of Tim Kaine, if we look at the midterm election results in the Senate, I gotta find the Virginia election results. Tim Kaine, he ended up winning here by a safe margin, which is 16%. So it's very, very solid for the Democrats at this point in time. So with Maine at large, I used to characterize this as safe. I don't think I was taking into account how rural Maine at large is. And yes, this congressional, the first district, is kind of tilting it towards the left. They still have the second congressional district to deal with, and I do think that in a best case scenario for Donald Trump, he would barely lose it. But this is not a best case scenario for Donald Trump. In fact, this is a regular prediction, and I do think it'll be likely for the Democratic Party. So that puts them up to 238. I'm going to try to condense the likely states for the Republicans. I'm just going to briefly go over them. I think that's all of them. Alaska, when we talk about Alaska generally, this is a state that is pretty weird to analyze. It's hard to analyze, so I could be very off in the state. But the recent polling has put Trump ahead by 6, by 1. So, to be honest, I don't think that the Republicans have too much to be worried about. Alaska polls do generally underestimate GOP support there. Trump isn't that popular there. He's not too unpopular. He actually was in the polling. He was polling essentially neck and neck with Hillary Clinton, but he ended up pulling away. And despite all the third-party voting going on, he still won. Missouri, this isn't really contested. I don't think that Joe Biden has a chance at winning here. Even in the best-case scenario, he'll probably come up short. But this state, what's going to happen is the Democrats are going to run up the score in the suburbs and in the the urban areas. That'll make the margin closer than it really should be. But Donald Trump's still going to win Missouri easily. Nicole Galloway, I am 100% sure she will outperform Joe Biden in Missouri. I do think that she is going to come within 5 points of winning the governor race there. But, she actually has the time to dedicate her attention to only one state. She's a lot younger, so she has more energy than Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't have the time to campaign in only Missouri. And if he did, that would be a horrible strategy. Okay, so now Indiana, the recent polling actually does indicate that Trump's on the path to a landslide victory here. And, the polling is kind of weird, kind of bounces around in the 5th district. That's an interesting House race. But Trump by 17, Trump by 10. Eric Holcomb actually destroying Woody Myers. I think Eric Holcomb will outperform Donald Trump here. But, that being said, kind of like what's going to happen in Missouri, Democrats are going to run up the margins in, Indianapolis and Gary, and, maybe even in Evansville. And that's going to propel them to, coming within 12 points of winning the state. South Mississippi, this western part of Mississippi very blue, and I do expect it to kind of make Mississippi a lot closer than it should be. Same with South Carolina. Having Jaime Harrison on the ballot is going to help Democrats because Lindsey Graham is almost certainly going to underperform Donald Trump here. So, just kind of the fact of the matter is that these states will be just barely going into the likely call. None of these states are really contested. So, JHK forecast doesn't really give the Democrats a huge chance of winning any of these states. Missouri, 6.1%, Indiana, 4.6%, Alaska, I think is a little generous. South Carolina, 14%, Mississippi, 3.4%. So, these states aren't really competitive. Now, moving on to the competitive states, the leading states. And I've gotten a lot of criticism for, I always forget to put Texas in the likely Republican column. And this is like my most controversial call that I predict Texas will go to Trump by a likely margin. And people say, "Oh, Texas, the polling there is neck and neck." Well, the most recent poll that sampled 800 registered voters puts Trump ahead by 7. Other polls, they're putting Trump ahead by 6. I'm trying to find presidential polling, and Donald Trump has started to expand his lead. They were kind of neck and neck, and Joe Biden actually has a small lead here at the end of July. That was essentially his high point. But, at this point in time, I don't think that the Democrats are going to really make a... that was poor wording. I think that the Democrats are going to make a play for Texas, but I think that they know that they don't need Texas, first of all. Now, they need the Rust Belt. They need Arizona. They need Florida. They need North Carolina, maybe. But they don't need Texas. Texas is what Donald Trump needs. And yes, they should play a little offense, kind of make Donald Trump spend money here. But, at the end of the day, this is a very conservative state. And Beto O'Rourke he kind of broke the glass ceiling for the Democrats in the Senate race there. Where Beto O'Rourke did come close to beating Ted Cruz. Now, she had the time to campaign in every single county, and there are so many counties in Texas. It's absolutely insane. Like, if I can pull up a county map of Texas, you campaign in every single county. Look at all those counties. So Joe Biden doesn't have the time and energy to do that. All right, so now I'm going to characterize the lean states. Now, Nevada, I'm big on characterizing as lean. A lot of people criticize me for putting it as lean, but we have to remember that this was pretty close in 2016. Hillary Clinton, I think she won by 2.5 here, if I'm right. Yeah, I was right. She won by 2.4%, which is basically 2.5. And Joe Biden is actually polling a little bit worse than Hillary Clinton is with the Latino vote. Now, that won't hurt him that much because Nevada is going to – the Latinos are going to turn out to vote for him no matter what. In fact, even when but Democrats need to run up the score with Latinos in every state except Florida. In Florida, the Latino vote is a bit more conservative a lot more conservative actually than it is elsewhere. But that's a story for another time. And in Nevada, they're very liberal. But again, Democrats, Nevada, as you can see, has a lot of rural counties. Now, as you can see, they're pretty small. Like Hillary Clinton, she only got 74 votes in Eureka County. It's actually interesting. It's the name of my sponsor. But, it's not like Nevada is that contested anymore. It was contested in, I think it was contested in 2004, contested in 2000. Not so much this time around. So, yeah, I think it'll just be tippy top of the lean margin. Could be likely. I think it'll be like 4.5, 4.9% margin of victory for Joe Biden. Another lean state is Nevada. My apologies. Another lean state is Arizona, where the Republicans have been making up a little bit of ground here, but they still should be winning in Arizona. I mean, they've had a lot of how do I say this? Bad luck in this state, if you will. Now, if we take a look at Arizona's Senate race in 2018, Kirsten Sinema beat Martha McSally by a lean margin, and I think Joe Biden will actually outperform Kirsten Sinema's margin. Arizona's trending to the left incredibly fast. Like, literally 4 years ago, this wasn't even a swing state, and Hillary Clinton actually outperformed the polling here. Democrats have a long history of outperforming polling in states like Arizona and Nevada, by the way, which I forgot to mention. The polls actually had her down by 5. She ended up coming close to winning. She lost by 3.5%. So I do think that the Democrats have the edge here. The suburbs are turning against the Republicans, and I bring this up a lot. Maricopa County is the swing county in Arizona. That's it's actually where my grandparents live. But Maricopa County, that's a very moderate county. They like moderates, and Mark Kelly is almost certainly going to carry this county. Also, having Mark Kelly on the ballot is going to help the Democrats a lot. But Donald Trump, he ended up winning this county by 30,000 votes, approximately. Something like that. Or no, my bad. 40,000 votes. Kirsten Sinema, she won that county by 60,000 votes. So Democrats are turning the tide in Arizona, and I do think that it'll pay off. Now, another lean state, Pennsylvania. This puts the Democrats over the top. And I usually characterize this as a tilt state, but I think I was being too cautious in that Pennsylvania is a historically blue state. The last time it won red, other than 2016, was, in fact, 1988, Michael Dukakis. And, the polling was actually, it got pretty close in the middle of April, but Democrats Joe Biden has expanded his lead. He's up by 6.4% now. Seeing a slight up, he kind of hit a rough patch in, at the beginning of August, but he's kind of going up again to back, certainly not where he was, like, towards the end or middle of July, but we're still talking about, this is his home state. He's born in Scranton. Hillary Clinton, she had no appeal to these voters, no appeal at all. Donald Trump had all the appeal in the world to these voters, and he still only won it by less than 1%. So, yeah, Democrats also did incredibly well. Like, they crushed it in the midterms here. The Senate race, they won by essentially a safe margin. In the Senate race there, and if we go to the governor's race, Pennsylvania, where is the I'll just pull this up. Governor's race in Pennsylvania, they won here by a safe margin. So this is a very blue state. Well, it was in the midterms, and they actually flipped a few House seats there as well. And I think it will narrow up, but still be blue. Wisconsin, another state that I do expect to go to the Democratic Party. They don't have any other races statewide other than the presidential race, but the polling, Donald Trump has taken a huge hit in Wisconsin. I don't know why it's moving there, but back in February, he had a big lead. Now he's actually losing by nearly 7% in a state that he won by this is his biggest win in the Rust Belt. It was the most surprising, but he won by 1%, which is a big margin. Negative 8%. Is his net approval. That's not good at all. And this has been a historically blue state. Even though Mitt Romney, his running mate was Paul Ryan, he was a congressman from Wisconsin. He ended up losing this by, still a likely margin. And I could see this being likely, and it could very well even be safe, although I don't think it will. But I think likely and lean are the best characterizations. I'm going to err on the side of caution and give it to the Democrats by a lean margin. But again, it could easily be likely, and that's what a lot of election forecasters have started to say about this state. The JHK forecast, they put Biden ahead by, let's see what the net is. They put Biden ahead by 6, which is falling into the likely call. Another lean state is New Hampshire, which I've been kind of flip-floppy on. I do think Trump has a chance in New Hampshire. It's kind of being ignored by the Democrats. But, that being said, this is a very Northeastern college-educated state. It's pretty white, so that does help the Republicans, but most of these are college-educated voters. It was actually incredibly close in 2016. They put Biden ahead by 9. I don't buy that because, remember, why is that coming up? In 2016, Donald Trump, he narrowly lost this race to Hillary Clinton. He lost by 0.4%, which is literally a little less than 3,000 votes. And the Republicans actually have a good governor on the ballot. Kirsten, very popular governor there. He's almost certainly going to win re-election. So, yeah. And at this point in time, I think Joe Biden has the edge, but this is subject to change come election day, and this will probably not be my actual prediction by the time the election rolls around. So always keep that in mind before criticizing me. And I'm not wrong yet. Okay, so now we're going to go to our lean Republican states. These are, I think I'm only going to say one state. That's Georgia. And, Georgia, actually, there was a brief period where Donald Trump was trailing in the polling, from the middle of June to essentially the middle of July. For about a month, he was trailing, and then Biden had a good day on August 3rd, I guess. But, since then, Donald Trump started to expand his lead again, as he should be. This is a red state, and even according to the polls, it's a tilt state. So, yeah, the Democrats essentially hit their peak there in the 2018 governor race. Stacey Abrams, she narrowly lost to Brian Kemp, narrowly. And she would have won had there not been voter suppression. But the bad news for the Democratic Party is, and for democracy, is that there will be voter suppression again. And that's the main reason that I'm characterizing this state as a lean Republican state. Two Democratic states, we're going to try to get through this as quick as I can. North Carolina. Let's look at the polling. Not good for... And there's actually been a lot of good polls that have polled North Carolina that are putting Joe Biden ahead. It's always going to be close, as it should be, because this is a very close state. If we're seeing a margin like Joe Biden ahead by 5 or 6, I don't buy that. But, ahead by 1.3, that's a very, very good sign for the Democrats. And, the best polls, the best of the best, sampling registered voters are putting Joe Biden ahead by 7, by 9, by 4. So, don't tell me that these are fake polls, blah, 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 because they're really not. And these are A-plus rated polls. And by the way, a lot of these polls actually did put the Republicans up in the governor race in 2016. And Roy Cooper, the Democrat, ended up winning that. And by the way, speaking of a certain Roy Cooper, he is on the ballot for re-election, and he's very popular. and every single poll has him ahead by huge margins. So Cooper is 100% going to outperform Joe Biden, and he's going to help propel Biden to victory. Now, another state. Why is Joe Biden? Did I mess up again? Oh, never mind. My bad. Okay, another state, Florida, that's going to go to Joe Biden. Now, I do think Florida could go to Donald Trump. And why are they? Oh, no, my bad. But when we're seeing these polls putting Joe Biden ahead by 5.3 in a state that the polls were, just like half a percentage point off the mark in 2016. That's very, very interesting to see, considering how well Joe Biden is doing. And Trump is actually losing support in the panhandle, where Republicans tend to run up the score. So that's not good at all for him. JHK forecasts, I actually think it's interesting that they give Donald Trump a nearly 80% chance of losing this race, 74.8%. So, yeah. Now going to go to our tilt Republican states. The rest are tilt Republican, spoiler alert. Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. I'm not going to look at the polling. I'm just going to go off of what I know. This is a pretty urban district, but that being said, it went to Donald Trump by approximately, I think it won by like a lean margin, 20. I want to see by Congressional District. There we go. So the 2nd Congressional District, Obama won by a tilt margin. Then in 2012, let's see how much he lost it by. He lost it by a likely margin. Then 2016, I think Hillary Clinton actually did outperform Joe Biden, or not Joe Biden, Barack Obama here by Congressional District. Okay, and she lost it by 2. So I think Joe Biden is going to come close to winning it, but narrowly lose. Iowa, this has gotten closer and closer. This is originally a likely Republican state, then moved down to lean. Now it's a tilt state. Could very well be a toss-up / tilt Democrat state. But the polling has actually been pretty bad for Joni Ernst. We're not going to talk about Joni Ernst because this is a presidential prediction. And, the Democrats have never really had a good period in Iowa, but they made it close. Biden had the lead toward the end of June. But, Iowa's a white rural state. That's going to help. Demographics are everything in a state like Iowa, and that's going to help Donald Trump edge it out. Same with Ohio. There's actually a good amount of black voters in Ohio, and, we're seeing Biden ahead by 0.5 narrowly. Remember that the polls underestimated Donald Trump here by, 4 or 5% in 2016. So I don't really trust the polls in Ohio, especially when they're putting Biden ahead by such a narrow amount. I get that Trump is unpopular. I get that people are fed up with him right now. But that being said, I think Ohio is a little bit too conservative for Biden to flip it. Now, last toss-up electoral vote is Maine's 2nd Congressional District. It's a very rural district. Donald Trump, he actually outperformed the polls by double digits here. The polls had him behind by, 1.12%. But he ended up winning it by nearly 10%. So, yeah, I'm not really going to talk about the polling for this district. It's rural. It's white. Donald Trump won it by a likely margin in 2016. I think it will narrow up for sure. But that being said, we're talking about a very conservative district. And I know that they elected a Democrat to the House in 2018, but I think they're going to lose it this year. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you're watching this video, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video. I upload daily, or at least I try to. I'm getting a little busy, but I try to. And I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you disagree with the prediction, be sure to tell me what you disagree with. Don't hate. Just don't be like, you're a stupid idiot, blah, 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 because that's not productive. But if you actually want to, have this conversation, I think the Montana is going to be likely, or I think Nevada is going to be likely, I'll be sure to reply to you in the comment section. So, guys, thanks for watching. Also, be sure to drop a follow for Instagram, and if you would like Patreon, multiple perks you can get from donating to me. It also helps me out a tremendous amount. So, guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.